Welcome to episode 13 of the Willpower Podcast. Today's guest is Chris Bussing. Chris wears many hats. He works in tech sales. He runs a YouTube channel. He has a podcast. And he has an accelerator program for people looking to get into the field of tech sales. You can find out everything about Chris through his YouTube channel. You just search Chris Bussing on Google or YouTube. Today's conversation was super interesting. We talk all about Chris's life, different periods of it, different things that get in the way, and things that have worked for him. We also get a lot into his life philosophy and where he learned those things. We kind of end out the conversation talking about dating and both of our experiences in that realm. Hope you enjoy. All right, Chris, what led you to tech sales?
I was in college and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew two things. I loved people and I wanted to be great, whatever that means. And the reality is it was a Saturday morning, late morning, probably 10 or 11 a.m. when I was at Georgetown University, where I'd gone out the night before. I was drinking at the time and I was a little bit hungover. And my buddy, Chris, also named Chris, my roommate and best friend, gave me a nudge and said, Chris, you said you wanted to get into sales or consulting. There's a career fair going on and this guy, Sean from Oracle's there. It's a great company. Go for it. So my friend gave me a nice little nudge. And I just think it's so important to acknowledge the friends and the people in your life that demand the best from you and push you and see your potential oftentimes more than you even see it yourself in the moment. And so it's a funny way to have started the journey, but he gave me that nudge. I went up to Sean, I shook his hand and said, bring me in and I'm going to make it happen. Just kind of, it's amazing how confidence, it can go such a long way. And I just believe in fake it till you become it. And I was kind of doing that. But I went in there and showed up and shook his hand, and that shook up my future and ended up getting into tech sales. And I have found that it was the perfect career path for someone who loves people, because you get paid to build amazing relationships, not just with your teammates, your managers, and the people you're working with in the context of your company, but with your customers. And I have a CTO I work with that's become like a mentor to me and almost like a second dad. He's got 14 cars and I'm in the back of his Aston Martin a couple of months ago, wind hitting my face, living the life. I'm like, this is amazing. And it started with doing business together. So if you love people, I found that this is such a good path. You get paid to build amazing relationships. And if you want to be great, like I did, you have something inside you that's like, there's a giant inside me waiting to be awoken. I know I can do big things. Sales will help you get into the arena of life and particularly, picking up a phone and making cold calls, and it's going to stretch you to reach your potential. I think the ultimate vehicle to realizing our potential is taking massive action. So you get to do that in sales. And of course, when you're surrounded by people that push you to grow and that are stretching themselves as well, it's contagious. So I could go on and on about how tech sales has been a vehicle to helping me reach my potential. But I really believe through my YouTube channel and this course I launched called Tech Sales Accelerator that this path can be a vehicle to creating a life of freedom and impact. And I'm just so grateful, man, that I stumbled on this path and ended up shaking hands with Sean and shaking up my future.
Okay. Do you see it as a means to an end or as an end in itself?
I do see this path as, again, a vehicle that someone can use to generate income, meaningful relationships, and of course, not just meaningful, but relationships that open doors to opportunities like jobs and business opportunities, self-development, and just amazing experiences. And so in that way, you could say you can use it as a vehicle, as a means to an end to generating those things. And not to mention one other piece that it just hit me too is the skill set that's so transferable. If you want to be an entrepreneur and founder, the only people who sell more than professional sellers are like founders of companies. Whether you're selling to raise funding for your company, selling your vision to a future employee that might have to take lower pay today, but you get them bought in on your vision and you bring them over. That's selling, right? So I do think it is a great vehicle to, again, freedom, financial freedom, impact. And going further in anything you want to do tomorrow. Like I had a lawyer that I worked with, and he was in sales for 10 years. But at the same time, I think it's important to appreciate the journey. And I could see myself staying in sales indefinitely and just being really happy. So I think the journey is really where you experience the joy and meaning that sustains human beings. So there's nothing wrong with using it as a vehicle to a long-term vision and as a springboard, and knowing that it might not be forever, but also please don't jump ahead of yourself. Appreciate every day that you get in the arena and all the growth that comes with this path.
Right. Okay. So I feel a lot of passion from just hearing you talk, and I've heard some of your podcast episodes, but I'm curious where you find willpower, and you can take that however you will.
Yeah.
Whether in the workplace, outside of work, in whatever.
I really am the product of irrational and unrelenting persistence. My dad pursued my mom over and over, and she kept rejecting him. She kept saying, no, not interested. When he saw her bartending at the local bar, when he saw her at the gym, she kept shutting him down. Eventually, there was a point, though, I'm told, where my mom made up in her mind, if he asked me out one more time, I'm going to say yes. And he did. And thank God he did, because it's led to a 42-year marriage. And I wouldn't be here if my dad didn't ask one more time. And so I think the Bussing family is just like, we embrace persistence. And I wonder if it's just, is it in the genetics? Is it in the wiring? I don't know. But you can tell I'm a passionate guy, and I'm so grateful for seeing through stories like that passed down through my family, the power of persistence. And I say irrational and unrelenting. And irrational is like, it would be rational to stop pursuing someone who keeps rejecting you. But there was some faith in just like stepping outside the irrational story that, maybe I should just let her go, and honoring faith and just going for it, that led to an unpredictably beautiful result, a 42-year marriage. Mm-hmm. And so I think part of it's in what we stand for as a family and my wiring. And I think of my mom, like, so my dad he's a closer, he sealed the deal, put a ring on it, and they got married. But my mom then of course wanted to have kids, and my dad did too, but she was really going to be doing most of the work, right? The ladies do. And she couldn't have kids for 11 years. And in fact, had stillborn twins in the process 6 years in. She could have given up. I mean, she must have been devastated. Like, I know she was, and I talked to her about this experience, but she kept going. She had irrational, unrelenting perseverance, persistence, and faith. And 11 years in, after having stillborn twins, eventually this kid popped out, and they called him the miracle baby. And at the baby shower, there were 350 people, all these gifts, and her friend Kathy Polson had prayed for 10 years, and it's documented in a journal for this kid, and that was me. So I literally, when I say I'm the product of irrational persistence and faith, like I am, whether it's my dad making one more ask my mom, continuing to try to have kids, and I've seen it in my career too. And so part of it's these stories and the narrative that I was born into, and I'm so grateful for that. But I also realized that it's like, I mean, we could get into like some practical stuff too, but that I would say that's the high level. It's something I really stand for, even in the face of like no indication that success will ever come. Just keep showing up, man. So I actually have a lot of other stories and examples, like hitting a rock bottom with a depression, but still showing up. Deals that I've won where I lost a deal to a competitor and then won it back a year into the future. But I'll pause here for now.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is persistence is baked into your identity. Like that is a part of who you are.
Well put. That's it. It's literally baked into my identity. It's who I am. So it's a necessity. Like there's no other option.
Okay. Well, let's go a little more nitty gritty. What have you learned about motivation from working in tech sales?
So I think that motivation is generated. We have a choice to create it. It's not like waiting for motivation to land on us like fairy dust sprinkled down from the heavens, but you can take action. In fact, action is the answer. I always say this. You take action and it generates motivation and inspiration, which leads to more action and then more motivation and inspiration and action. And it's a virtuous loop that creates unpredictable results. But the biggest mistake when it comes to motivation is thinking that you need to wait for motivation to get started. The formula is the other way around. So if I could like leave the audience with any message, have irrational, unrelenting perseverance and take relentless action. Like good things will eventually happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like start moving.
Just get things moving. And I have for my business, I have the YouTube channel, Chris Bussing, the podcast, like the Chris Bussing podcast. I have a business called Tech Sales Accelerator that helps people launch tech sales careers. And Bussing Ventures is my umbrella for like the YouTube, the tech sales. I do want to be a professional speaker and I'm actively working on that. But I have this, my logo is an arrow and it's like points up and to the right. And the theme is always aim upward and just make one more ask. Try one more time. Send one more touch point, one more email. Lift one more rep.
I like that. Yeah. Is there anything specific about the YouTube channel or podcast that you've learned from? Because I know myself, it takes a lot of what you're talking about is the persistence without immediate results.
Yes. Consistency is a superpower that anyone can have. I've built the YouTube to almost 5,000 subscribers. We're almost there. About almost 800,000 views. And it has not been a meteoric rise. And I still have a long way to go. That's not huge, but I'm very proud of it. And it's just been through 3 years of consistently producing content, over 900 videos. A lot of those are shorts. I have a guy that helps me slice up my podcasts and produces shorts every day, but it's just consistently planting seeds. And I recently had an amazing guest, Andy Mewborn, the CEO of Distribute, and he was the former CEO of Taplio, and he sold it. Just to put in perspective, Taplio, his former company, helps people build their LinkedIn audience and better engage on LinkedIn. And his current company creates like documentations for sales teams, like executive briefings to share with customers, war rooms, things like that. And he was a 3 times President's Club seller. So maybe some proof points on his credibility. This guy is someone I look up to. And he said that I don't take on anything new unless I can do it every day like I brush my teeth. And so it's not anything sexy that I've done. It's literally consistency. And I think to myself, I will outlearn, I will out-execute, and I will outlast. So I will say a few other thoughts on why I've had some degree of success. I had a YouTube channel before Chris Bussing, my name, and it's focused on tech sales. It was called Pursuit of Possibility. I really believe in the idea of us, coming together to invent possibilities for ourselves and for the world and striving towards a better world, and it was just a very broad personal growth focused channel. In the pandemic, I hit a rock bottom. I got depressed. I'd moved out to LA and it was just a tough time for a lot of people. And I, in that low point, was able to kind of question my whole life in a healthy way. Like the depression served a great purpose. And as I questioned things and looked at my life and my direction, I'm like, I somehow realized that what if I was able to give up this channel and my attachment to it. I was so emotionally connected to it. I'd done it for over a year, about 700 subscribers at the time. What if I could give it up to focus on what I'm really good at, and I've done for now it's 10 years, tech sales, something that's very tangible, helping people get a job at a company they love, and get promoted from like entry-level sales to account executive and become a closer. I realize this is my expertise. It's tangible, solving tangible problems, and I can use this as a Trojan horse to talk about the broader personal growth themes. And fortunately, I was able to give up the connection to the old channel to pursue this new channel. And now as I described, it's about 5,000 subscribers, approaching 1 million views. And sometimes we have to give things up in order to grow and hit the next level. And what's funny is as I talk, I forgot the original question or point, but that was something on my heart that I wanted to share. Sometimes it's good to get knocked on our ass, and we have to give up our current ways of thinking and operating to reach a whole different level and move in a different direction.
Yeah, well put. Do you have an idea of where you want the YouTube channel to be? Are you going to maintain it as tech sales entirely?
It'll continue to focus on tech sales. It always will, because I've seen in my life how it can be a vehicle to freedom and impact. And when I say freedom, you can make a lot of money, and that's very valuable to create a sense of financial freedom. And then you can get even more intentional about what you want to do. Like, how do you want to use the money? Do you want to create experiences for your family? Do you want to, create a charity or give to certain causes? You develop skills that will be like, they'll amplify anything you choose to do tomorrow. So I think this is always going to be a theme of like personal transformation through tech sales. But yes, I want to continue to expand to broader topics, and to speak more to entrepreneurship, and but ultimately it's all under that guise of living a life of freedom and impact. That's pretty broad. Mm-hmm. And so I think that tangent where I was like, oh, where was I going? Part of the success and growth was also just really laser focusing on solving a specific, like, tangible problem of getting a job. And if we break it down even further, it's like, how do you network to get interviews? How do you interview well? Once you get the job, how do you cold call and LinkedIn message and cold email to get more meetings? And then how do you build political capital within a company and build a plan to get promoted to join the 6-figure earners club as an account executive, right? How do you keep going from there? And because I really focused in, focus breeds success. And so I continue to have a reverence for the power of focus, because sometimes I will do other videos that are much more broad on like why I gave up drinking, and we might talk about that today. And they actually did pretty well. It's a powerful theme, but it's funny when I stay focused on the topics that people are really searching for that bring concrete value. It leads to more engagement. And so one day I do envision myself, though, being like an impact theory, or you have Chris Williamson, you have some big names out there, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely think there's a place it's an interesting thing, because I know that's a route a lot of people take, is they'll niche down and speak to the people that are going through the same experience that they have. And then from there, they've built that up. But then there's only a certain number of those people.
True.
And so then it's like, how do you expand your message while still talking to those people?
Yeah, and it was a low-hanging fruit to talk to my former self, in a very focused area. And that is the question, how do you expand? And I just think, like, I want people, as you could tell, to embrace the power of persistence. Another theme for me is like operating like everything matters. Like, what if we confronted the reality of how big of an impact we actually make in this life? There are like small things we do that we don't even realize can cause ripple effects for other people. And so I appreciate you getting me thinking about, too, the longer term, how are we going to keep expanding? Because you know what? I mentioned I'm about to be 1 million views, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. Well, in a personal growth seminar, I proclaimed very nervously at the time, I want to have 1 million subscribers. So we might need to expand a little bit to get to 1 million, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about failure. Yeah. So what's a big failure in your past? And you can define failure however you want. And how did you learn and grow from it?
Yeah. I think I have so many failures. I'm so good at failing. And our ability to endure failure and rejection will determine our success. But one of my biggest, most embarrassing, humiliating, shameful failures, I'd say, is, also the reason I stopped drinking. I was out at my buddy's bachelor party in New Orleans, and we were on Bourbon Street, and I got obliterated, and I was not there consciously. Tragedy is, or comedy is tragedy plus time, so I can laugh now, but this is serious. So I got hammered, and Mike Tyson says everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's exactly what happened to me. I got hammered. I picked a fight with a college running back. I don't know if he was at Tulane or LSU, so he must have been pretty damn strong. I was being an asshole, and I got knocked out with one punch. And I woke up in an ambulance. I'm like, what am I doing here? And my face was like destroyed. And the next day, I ended up having to fly home to my mom's 70th birthday. Imagine going to your mom's 70th birthday, your sweet mom. We're going to go to church that day, and my face is destroyed. It turns out I was concussed. She's like, why did you do this to me? And I felt like I did. I kind of ruined her birthday, right? And then I get back to Austin like a handful of days later, and my buddy who it was his bachelor party. I was going to be best man at his wedding. I wrote a speech where I cried tears of joy with all the beautiful stories, and I was ready to really just give an amazing speech. And we talked about me being best man for years. He said, "Hey, Chris, we need to let's talk." And he came over my place and he said, "Chris, you're a liability, and I can't have you at my wedding." And that friendship ended, and it's still, actually, we're out of communication. This was over a year ago. And what I realized from that is that when we mindlessly pursue impulses and pleasure, in fact, recklessly, we don't realize the absolute like cascading impact it can have on other people. Did I go out mean to hurt my mom and ruin her birthday when I went out thinking I was going to just have a great time and get hammered in Bourbon Street? Absolutely not. I would have never expected that would happen. But by following that impulse, it led to that. I hurt my friend. And of course, like, I was so angry that he uninvited me from his wedding, but at the same time, I have an empathy. I was an asshole. I wasn't a good friend. I mean, that was so selfish to do that. And so it was really one of my greatest rock bottoms, so painful. And one of the most painful things was just psychologically, just hurting my mom. And then the embarrassment of going from best man, and I was going to crush the speech, right? I'm a motivational speaker in the making, to uninvited, and actually losing that friendship, that beautiful friendship. And so it wasn't the getting punched in the face by a running back where that guy knocked my lights out and my face was like destroyed. It was the psychological pain. And I am so grateful for the gift of how painful that was, because it killed my motivation to drink, and I gave it up permanently. And for over a year, talk about freedom and transformation. And I was planning to give up drinking for years, right? And I would give it up 6 months at a time, but that killed my motivation, and it just gave me an appreciation for the power of subtracting bad habits, subtracting success assassins. I'm like, if I want to make a big impact for people and lift the world with words and encourage, I cannot afford, like, my vision cannot afford for me to drink. My future family cannot afford for me to drink. And so that is my greatest failure, I would say, far and away.
Yeah, that's such a great story. Yeah, I think it's also important to realize how much that was hurting yourself too. Because like you emphasized what you were putting on other people, but then also it's like you lost a friendship.
Oh, dude.
You had to go through that like physical damage to your body. And so, yeah, it truly was a gift to yourself.
And, what have I learned about willpower? We talked about it being like embedded in my identity of being persistent, but also you want to destroy your willpower, go drink and like be hungover, or do something so out of integrity like I did that it just absolutely demoralizes you. And of course, you come back from it. But like drinking is, talk about a success assassin. And I will say, going back to, this is the Willpower Podcast, right? It's like, when you eliminate these negative habits, especially destructive ones like drinking, it can lead to like quantum leaps in performance. Over time, you're just like, you operate at a whole different level. And I will say that, and you've heard this, like, I would think like, it's not as much about willpower, but creating a context and environment where you have less distractions, where you can show up at your best.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed the power of eliminate a destructive habit and also stack positive ones, man. Like I ice bath before this today. Not immediately before it, but I ice bath every day. I work out at Squatch Frontier Fitness. Shout out to Squatch. Check it out sometime if you want. Have you been? Quick
I haven't
side.
Worked out there.
Okay.
I went to like an event there.
Cool. So ice baths, man, that boosts dopamine for up to 6 hours. And supposedly, I know this sounds dramatic, but I read like it gives you a better hit than nicotine or cocaine, and it lasts longer. So that's a natural way to like operate at your best. Working out every day. I did the Wim Hof method earlier. We did a little breath work exercise. Nice, dude. Air fist bump. So yeah, those habits, man, that creates a context where you're like your willpower. You're not even counting on it. You're ready to go and you're consistent.
Yeah. I definitely resonate with the drinking. So I went through, just like I was like a regular drinker, as in like, let's say every weekend or every other weekend, I would get like pretty drunk. And it felt like that. It felt like I was like making progress. And then I would have the drinking day and then I'd drop. And then I have to start back there, make some progress, boom. And it was like just a repeating pattern of constantly falling back. And I never was able to like continually just grow. And so for me, that I stopped also a little over a year ago, and that was huge.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have a friend on the same path, and so well put with the, making progress, taking a step back, not that we won't have step backs in our lives, but when you eliminate drinking, you have much less of those.
Yes. And like you're imposing them on yourself when you're drinking.
Yeah.
It's like you're choosing to have those setbacks. Yeah. Do you want to dig into a little more about alcohol?
We could, yeah.
I'm curious what like role it played when you were drinking, how you used it and how you thought about it.
So when I was drinking, I always prided myself that I never wanted to drink on my own. I never consistently drank like every day, but it was on the weekends, as you described. And I think it was a way for me to completely give up control. Maybe I like something about that and get reckless. Like, let me give up control, but that giving up control sometimes would lead to some fun experiences, being wild, having some fun stories. But man, did it lead to destruction and disaster. And so yeah, I think that was a core driver. It was just like letting go. And I talked with a good friend of mine who is also on this path and gave up drinking. And both of us, like when we had these crazy things happen, like getting in the fight for me, getting knocked out, life was amazing. That's the interesting thing. I never drank. Like when I was in a depression that I described in the pandemic, I stayed away from alcohol. It was when life was good. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said for pride comes before the fall. I don't know if that's biblical. Of course, it's a common theme, like Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. And so what's interesting for me is some of my biggest like rock bottoms or issues came at times when I just felt on top of the world leading up to it. And I said, I'm going to give up control. And then all of a sudden, I'm, waking up in an ambulance.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's pivot away and talk about health and fitness. So you talked about Squatch, ice baths. What else? Like what role does it play in your life?
the gym is important to me because it's an opportunity to, one, you generate feel good, chemicals. Like it's like a natural drug, and you generate a sense of self-esteem that you can carry with you into your workday. When you've lifted the weight, you did one more rep, you made some progress. That pride, healthy pride, based on the work you're putting in and doing hard things, makes the cold calls a little less difficult. And it makes the work and the focus that you need to put in to realize your vision a little less difficult. And I notice I really settle into even a calmer, more focused state once I've got my energy out through the gym. And so it definitely serves a great purpose. And there's power in experiencing tangible progress. As I mentioned before, you lift one more rep than you ever did before. You bench press or squat 10 more pounds than you did before. That's like a literal transformation. And it unlocks a growth mindset, which will make you unstoppable. I think back to when I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain. I had the time of my life, and I got really into bodyweight calisthenics. And I'd go to El Parque del Retiro. That's a little rough, but Retiro was their big equivalent of Central Park in New York City. This gorgeous park, and they had these pull-up bars, like an outdoor complex. We have these in Austin, and I taught myself to do muscle-ups. 1 arm clapping push-ups, 3 clap push-ups where you clap in front, behind your back, and in front, all in one push-up. You really fly. And I will tell you, the first time I got over the bar and it was horrible form, with 1 arm on a muscle-up, that was transformation. That was so powerful. And you better believe I took that with me into my life. And it's just another proof point. You can do things that you never thought were possible. You can break through invisible barriers to reach your potential. Now, with the 3 clap push-up, I fell on my face a bunch of times, but then I finally got it, and man, it felt good. So the gym is such a powerful tool to amplify everything else in our lives. And maybe there's a few more thoughts I have on the gym. I've heard it said it's a 401k for your brain. The things you do today are reducing your risk of degenerative brain disease down the road. It's it improves your brain health, So I think that's it's super powerful. I had one other thought, and if it comes to me, I'll let you know. But it's just it's so important. Oh yeah, it came back when I was at Georgetown, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And of course, it's natural when you're 20 years old or younger you're trying to figure it out. The gym was my therapy, I remember one day I was at the squat rack and I was almost crying, and I didn't even have the awareness to know what emotions I was going through. Maybe I was a little depressed, with everything going on in life and stressed, but it was a powerful tool that actually improved my mental health. And it did give me a sense of purpose at the time. What I noticed, though, as I've got older and I got clarity around my vision and purpose and the impact I want to make in my career, and have built great relationships, it's become less of my identity, but I will always have an appreciation for the role it has served.
Yeah. What about diet? Do you focus on it, or what's your diet like?
When I was in college, I was 8% body fat. I was shredded. I was proud of it. And I even took a picture to commemorate it somewhere on Facebook. And I was eating very, I had a regimented nutrition plan. I landed on something called carb backloading. And it is powerful. Have you heard of it before?
I've heard of it. You'd have to remind me.
Yeah.
What exactly
and so
it is.
At the time, you go through a 10-day reset where you don't eat carbs at all. Under 5 grams, 10 grams of usable carbs. What that means is you can't eat fruit or vegetables, or actually healthy foods, because they have a lot of carbs. I ate meat, cheese, and eggs, basically. That's it. It was because I knew there were no carbs. And for 10 days you do that, and you're getting dizzy, you're fatigued. but your body is reprogramming itself. The carbs that were stored as fat previously are getting burned down. You're depleting your glycogen stores, based on what I remember when I had studied up on it. I wanted to at least know enough to be like, okay, this is legit. Let's do it. And the enzymes that store carbs as fat were being reprogrammed, I believe, to burn, burn fat for energy. I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that 10-day reset is really hard, but you get through it and you already start to see some noticeable like definition in your abs, and the gym becomes like more so just show up. You're not going to like lift more weight, but then carb night sets in. I think there was a specific program called Carb Night where you can carb backload. And so after 10 days, you do a workout in the evening after having no carbs all day, and then you can eat whatever you want. You could eat a pizza, burgers, ice cream, everything. And that actually turned out to be a very effective thing for me, and I got shredded as a result. And I've played around with that and revisited it at certain seasons in my life, even as I've gotten older, when I wanted to like get a little more shredded for like going out to Lake Travis in the summer. So, but it was extreme, man. And of course I didn't drink at that time, and it was effective. And yeah, but what I found now I'm 31 years old, just to put in context. I found something that works well for my lifestyle that's a little less intense, and it's just intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. And so I'll skip breakfast. I might even skip lunch. I just drink water and coffee during the day. Then I work out in the later afternoon, and then I eat whatever I want. But ideally, you want to eat whole foods and be somewhat healthy, right? And rather than just eating pizza, maybe you have quinoa or brown rice as a carb. But this intermittent fasting allows me to just not eat for a certain period and then have more flexibility in what I do eat. And so it's less like, because I was counting calories too a little bit back in the day. So it's worked for me. And some might even say that fasting is spiritual, and it can lead to some positive breakthroughs from that perspective. So that's what I've been doing lately. And maybe I have a little bit more chunkiness on my gut, but overall you can see some of the abs, and I'm feeling good. And I think it's more sustainable.
Yes. Yeah, I think those are the more important things. Like the getting shredded is fun.
Yeah.
But I think most important is like what makes you feel the best, and then what is actually like good for your body. What keeps you running. Using food as fuel in that way. And then also making it enjoyable so that it is sustainable.
It's a good call out for the audience, because that is the more mature place to be. Is food is I want to enjoy it. I want to do something sustainable. When I was in college, it was a less mature Chris. I just superficially, I want to be shredded. I thought I'd get the ladies. But of course, for the guys out there, you learn that it's not about being shredded. It's about who you are as a person and your confidence. And I found that when I had a dad bod, I had a season of a dad bod. I was like, which actually, I'm like, that was ridiculous, but I'm like, I got a dad bod. I had a lot of success in dating because I was just like comfortable with who I was. Do I encourage dad bods? No. But I did it just to point on your authenticity,
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to jump into dating? Do you want to talk about it?
We could, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And let me tell you, I've read books on dating, but I can't be in integrity and claim that I'm not the best person to give advice on dating, because that's still something I'm working on, but I'm happy to be open about it. And I am damn good at opening conversations and cold approaching.
Yeah.
And that actually just transfers from being a salesperson. And I'm just really good at the art of getting meetings. So I just wanted to give you that context. And I'm not overselling myself like, I'm this dating guru, because I certainly am not.
Okay. Let me tell you my story of dating. So I used to be terrified of talking to girls. Like that was a big reason I would drink, is because when I was drinking, I was more comfortable, more capable of like striking up conversation.
Yes.
A little over a year ago, I saw a video where More Plates, More Dates. Have you heard of this guy?
Tell me about that. That's a great name.
Okay. He's a YouTuber. And he talks a lot about, so now he's moved more towards like, I don't even know how you explain it. He like knows a ton about hormones, and he'll like be like, oh, is this guy on steroids or not?
Yeah.
And he just knows a lot of stuff. He's been on Chris Williamson's podcast. Wow. He's been on Joe Rogan. But he used to talk a lot about dating. And I just saw an old clip of him saying like every guy should get comfortable talking to women as early as possible in their life.
I second that.
Yeah. And so I saw that and I was like, okay, it's time. Because I had read a bunch of books. I had done all of that. I had watched a ton of YouTube videos, but I was like stopping at the point of action, like we talked about.
If we talked about action is the answer. Amen. Yep.
And this is a problem I know I fell into, a lot of guys fall into, which is you don't want to take the action. So you kind of trick yourself by reading another book or watching a video. And it feels like you're doing something.
Amen.
But you're not doing anything.
That's important to highlight for the audience, is that your brain might act as if, and even reward you. You feel good about reading because you think you're doing something about the problem, but you're not. I mean, what are you going to just become a walking like repository of knowledge? But you don't have the actual wisdom and experience. Yep. So that's an important point right there. So I just started, I was like, I need to do this. And so I literally scheduled on my calendar, go talk to people. And so I took my dog to the park and I talked to like 3 That's a
women.
hack, by the way. Have a cute dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Dogs are great because they'll like go up to another dog and then now you kind of have to talk to their owner.
That is such a pro move. And I have a dog as well. And oh my gosh, I'd highly recommend get a dog. First, because of the companionship and joy, but 2, like they'll go up to cute girls for you, honestly. So
yeah. And so I did that for a few months. I kind of like, at first I was really excited and I was like doing it. I think I got a girl's number the first day and I was like so excited. Yes. And then I just was slowly tapering off and like kind of losing that excitement. And then I went to this meetup group that was called Dumping Dating Apps. And I was like, this is kind of perfect because I had gone through the dating apps years before and then I was like, I'm done with these. And so I went and only the host was there. No one else showed up. And so I talked with him. He was a dating coach and I ended up hiring him to work with me. And that again sparked my energy back. And from there, I just was like, for months on end, just like an approach machine. Like I was just constantly just getting over the fear and doing it. And yeah, that was like one of the biggest learning experiences of my life, was going through that. And being able to see someone I'm attracted to, tell them that I'm attracted to them, and then potentially like actually have that go somewhere. And that was like mind blowing to me, that you can do that you can just see someone you're interested in and like have it become something. So that was kind of my journey. I met my girlfriend like 6 months ago after about a year of that. So
wow. And I just saw a beautiful note on the mirror, like from your girlfriend, it turns out, saying, I'm so lucky to have you.
Yeah.
So I came in like, this guy's a stud, And so what a story to hear that you were terrified of girls. And now you have a girlfriend telling you, I am so lucky to have you. And someone who sees you for the high quality man you are. So I echo what you've shared. Like, if you want to boil it down, it's so simple. The common denominator of success in any domain of life is making a habit of doing the uncomfortable things that failures don't want to do. And that includes cold approaching women. Mm-hmm. And so something I've always been good at, just because I just leaned into it and leaned into discomfort, is just going up and talking to women. And I think the key is just, excuse my French, but fuck your rationalizations and excuses. Just go up and talk and detach from the outcome. Whether it works out or not, the true success is that you went for it. You were in integrity with your desires and you acted upon your desires, and that is something to celebrate.
Yes. And then what you were saying about authenticity with the dad bod, like that was the key. That was like the thing I found out. It's like, the more I can be as authentic, like things like being like telling a girl how nervous I was.
Yes.
Was like I don't know. It just, I don't want to say it worked, because it wasn't like a tactic, because it was like, I genuinely was nervous. But just saying, I'm so nervous to talk to you right now, but I had to come tell you this. Just like alleviated it for me. all of a sudden I'm not nervous anymore. She feels more comfortable because she can see that I'm not hiding anything. I don't have some secret thing I'm trying to get out of her.
And you're not this slick dude that's so smooth they question, oh, does he approach every freaking girl?
Yep.
It's the same in sales, by the way. I was trained up in the Sandler sales methodology, which is rooted in transactional analysis, which is a branch of psychology. And they talked about the dummy curve. And sometimes it's beneficial to like say things like, excuse me if this is an unintelligent question, but I'm curious, like, and almost like being like not too polished, because someone like a salesperson who's too polished is actually threatening to a prospect. And it could be similar in dating, where it's like if you're too polished and too like overly confident and cold approaching, it could actually fire off a red flag. Mm-hmm. You know, so I love the vulnerability, and I think vulnerability, like that's it's true confidence that you were willing to put yourself out there and risk being rejected. And the fact that you did, you know, express yourself and go for what you want, like that's a woman is going to respect that.
Yeah. And another thing with those is like when you can be fully authentic, even if she's not interested, she has a boyfriend, whatever. Yeah. 99% of the time, it was like a super positive interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I just went up to a girl at Two Hands, a coffee shop, and she had an incredible smile and was so sweet. And I went up to her and I allowed myself to just feel the authentic like awe for her beauty. And I went up to her and I forget exactly what I said, but said, hey, I got to say, like, you have an incredible smile. I just had to tell you that and wanted to meet you. What's your name? And she told me her name, and then I paused. And I think this is really important, to allow her to ask for my name. Now, that's a great litmus test to see if a girl's interested. If she doesn't ask for your name, it actually might make sense. It's hard to be disciplined like this to even like potentially walk away, but you can kind of read if they have any interest. In this case, though, I was just friendly and warm, and she told me her name, and so we continued, but she had a boyfriend. But to your point, it was so authentic, and if anything, gave her the gift of acknowledgement and encouragement. And she came away like she had a boyfriend, but she said, you know what, you have great energy. And I'll admit, I was just feeling really good. And I think there are tools like breath work in the moment, or like a double nasal inhale that like Dr. Huberman talks about, where you're like, something like that. And it can ground you, that you can use to be more present and show up like in a way that is like makes the girl comfortable. Yeah. And so, by the way, this is a quick little tangent, but I think that's something that like dating books like maybe might not talk about. Is they might say like, oh, here's what you say or what you do, like these tactics, but there's something to be said for how do you like control your physiology and nerves to like be in a place where you're actually like showing up in a grounded way. And so yeah, that was a good experience, right? It left each other. Even if you're rejected, you can still come away from both sides are feeling better off. Like she got acknowledged and I got acknowledged. I will say I had this thought about keeping track of like my rejections as a single guy. And I think in the past week or two, I've gotten 4 rejections. Okay. And I celebrate that. Yeah. You know, and some were like beautiful like that with a boyfriend. Others, they flat out might not have been interested. And that was in a coffee shop. Another was at like an airport. Another was at Whole Foods. And I think the mistake people make, like men in particular, is thinking that out drunk at the bar is the best place to meet women, but it's the worst. Because even though everyone knows you're out there to meet people and maybe like get a number, hook up, or whatever your intention might be, women, their guards are actually up, you know, and you can have some success. But even if you do, what if you like end up making out with a girl, get her number, and you follow up, but she doesn't even remember you because she was drunk, or she shows up to the date and you're like, oh shit, like that's not what she looked like back then. Like you're not attracted to her. Yeah. So it's like, it's very risky, you know? And yeah, I had that happen once. This girl's so beautiful and she was engaged with me and touching my arm, and my buddy's like, she was into you. Well, when I followed up, she like didn't even remember me. And it's like, so the places that are really effective where you can actually be quite different than a lot of guys is at the Whole Foods. I mean, Whole Foods is awesome. You at the gym, in healthy environments, you know, at yoga. I will say, you do want to be mindful at the gym, right? Like, and maybe try and find an appropriate time when she's not in the middle of her set, right? And some girls, I've gotten feedback from girls that are like my buddy's wife that said, "Oh, never approach at the gym." Also, don't like let that stop you, that rationalization, even though you actually got feedback, because some girls would want to, and I've gotten dates from the gym. But there's something to be said for having a little bit of empathy and trying to, in the gym, for example, time it right. It like in between a set or after a workout, and in an environment where you're going to consistently run into a girl, you can play the long game and go up and say hi and build a little familiarity, create a little curiosity, and then not ask her out. And then you see her again, talk to her, and eventually I've seen a girl come to me where and she made it very clear she wanted to be asked out. Other times she's not interested, and that's okay. But anyways, I actually am very passionate about dating and this topic. I have a lot of funny stories because I've approached so many women. I'd love to know, have I been rejected 1,000 times? And ever since when I was at Oracle, people said you should be on The Bachelor or something, or I'd just tell them stories. And my buddy, John Habush, who you interviewed, as well as Trent Dressel, our other good buddy, said I should do more dating content on my site. On YouTube, and I'm not sure about it because I want to stay focused on the professional piece, but we'll see, man. So it's a fun topic.
Do you have a story on the top of your mind?
I have so many stories, and I'm going to share one that pops in my head that's not even that funny, but it's powerful. I think it's a powerful example of not giving in to rationalization and fear and acting anyways. Fuck your feelings, fuck rationalizations, go for it. So I was out at Rainy Street in Austin. It was actually around ACL, and a lot of people had come into town, and I saw this gorgeous girl that I'm like, I want to talk to her so bad, oh my gosh. And she was with a friend, and I'm like, she was pretty too. I'm like, there's no way I can approach these two girls at once, and pull this off, oh gosh. And I had my buddy David with me that was married. He's off the market, but he's a good encourager. He's like, dude, yeah, just go for it. And I felt like, this is never going to work. And this is just not practically going to make sense. It's too much with two girls. But I just said, fuck my rationalizations. And I went up and talked to them. What do you know? Kate was really nice. She was such a sweet soul. She was so attractive. I thought she's going to be uptight and stuck up. But she was from LA, but actually really nice. And so was her friend. And we ended up having an amazing night and bouncing around to different bars. And then actually brought Kate home. I would have never expected it. And then we hung out the next day at ACL, and we developed a friendship. And she lived in LA, so we weren't going to immediately date. But it led to an amazing experience. And that was just one example. But I've had times where funny rejections where the girls, she's like, I'm married, but I'm flattered. And I've had just some really ridiculous rejections. I've had some really painful ones. I had a girl at Georgetown tell me, you're the creepiest guy here. Ouch. But then another girl says, you're the most amazing guy here. So that's a powerful lesson, things, you might get some really harsh rejections, but you're actually probably not going to get that. But even if you do, you can survive it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like to. So I help a lot of guys with this. I host a meetup group where we literally practice talking to strangers. And that is one of the best counter argument to people who are like, oh, I don't want her to think I'm a creep, I don't want to bother her, is, okay, but what if you could make her day? If you don't go talk to her, you're taking away that from her. You could have made her day, made her feel amazing about herself, but instead you're not going to because you're afraid she might think you're a creep.
Yeah. It's you actually have a responsibility to go out there and speak your truth in a way that it's actually of service, especially when it's authentic. Like, I mean, creepiness, like maybe in that interaction that was years ago, like some might define creepiness as when your intentions, like your actions aren't in line with your intentions and there's something off. And so and I've had those moments and it happens, but I actually haven't had that. That was years ago. I'm 31 now. So that was like, might've been 20, but, it's amazing how many times like you just, you realize like, oh, I gave him a little gift and it didn't work out, but because I was authentic, and spoke my truth, it ended up being a great experience and you come away feeling good, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to relate like, my first date with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She walked into this place where we met and I saw her and I was like, she's too hot for me. This won't work. There's no way. And so I had that similar thing. And it actually helped me in this situation because I let go of all of my expectations. Because I was like, this isn't going to work. She's not going to want a second date. So why don't I just like enjoy this time while we have it?
Wow.
So, because sometimes I could find myself on first dates kind of anticipating, being like, oh, does she like me? Is this going to work out? Are we going to have a second date? And that just like takes me out of the present and I'm not able to fully be there. So
yeah,
something about
I do have a story on that too. I appreciate you sharing that. There's something to be said for like it's not going to work. Like she's out of my league. Like I got no shot. So I might as well enjoy it. Like I got nothing to lose.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, when I was 20 years old, my dad used to sneak me into the cigar bar in my hometown of Naples, Florida, Burns Cigar Bar. And I saw this woman that was gorgeous and she was 32 years old and she was with a friend. And I went up to both of them and started talking. And I'm like, in my head, I have no shot. I'm 20. She's 32. I have no shot. Yeah. But yet there was something empowering. I became really confident because I'm like, I got nothing to lose. And she even said, but you could tell she was interested actually, like, oh my gosh. And she said, you're too young. You're too young. And I thought I like actually was playful with her. And I said, yeah, I got nothing to lose. She's right. I'm too young. But like, I kept going. And next thing you know, she kind of goes off to do something. And I run into her again and we start dancing. We make out. And we had a good night. And I can't believe that. That was a crazy story. And it came from a similar place. And I know these examples, a couple of these were like hookups and one of them turned into a friendship. But it's more so the theme of screw your rationalizations, give yourself a shot and go for it. And sometimes it's actually really helpful to think that's probably not going to work out, but I got nothing to lose. And then you actually become like unstoppable.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. There has to be that second part. Because if you don't believe it's going to work out and that's it, then you're probably not going to.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good call out, man. Because and some of the folks out there, like Corey Wayne, I love his book, The 3% Man. And I actually re-listened to it. I think it's a great model for dating, everything from getting the number to marriage and keeping a relationship. He does say, and a lot of people say, like, go into things assuming attraction. So like, and that is powerful, like to assume attraction, assume you're going to get the deal. It's funny that there's so much overlap between dating and sales. So there's something to be said for that too, but what I think, I've found in my life has been the most powerful thing that has transformed depressions into getting out, showing up in peak high pressure moments, whether it's given a speech or in a negotiation. Something that's been transformative is active surrender. I set goals. I have plans to show up in these moments and put myself out there and get in the arena, and I take action. But I also, in the moment, when the pressure's on, I think of like my final round interviews to get my job at Google Cloud. There was a surrender. Like I just let go and I'm present. And that's powerful also when approaching a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like that. I don't know if you've read Models by Mark Manson.
That's actually how I cut my teeth in the dating world in college. That's what led me to approach a bunch of girls. And I still revisit it. So 100%, man. Models was really the OG, and then Corey Wayne's 3% Man has also been a very nice compliment.
Yeah. That was the book I read that kind of led me to the action phase.
Yeah.
Because I think he says something in the book about like, where he's like, you're probably just reading another book so that you don't have to go do it. And then he says to the reader, don't go read another book after this one.
Oh, I
Go
love
take
that.
action.
And he actually talks about translating like approach a certain number of women. And when I mentioned, like being in integrity with your desires, I was referring to his concept of honest action. He talks about honest living a lifestyle that is congruent with who you want to be. And that's powerful, like getting your career in place, living in there's a lot that falls into that lifestyle, but honest living is powerful because once you get that in place, you actually get like from a sales perspective, inbound leads, more women that are just coming to you and attracted to the life you're living. They want to, be a supporting cast member in your movie, and honest action though is like just going for it. And then honest communication actually has always been the toughest for me, which is like truly like, I think it's like vulnerable in like intimacy and like, just really being open up, being willing to be seen, know, and communicating with women, like understanding that women are emotional creatures and you do need to engage emotionally. As guys, I could see a gorgeous woman and immediately be like thinking about even like affectionate thoughts too, but they're very different. And so I'm still in the process of becoming the best man I can be and understanding women's emotional needs and how to communicate with them. Like, and I think that, that's under his theme of honest communication.
Yeah. Yeah. That really opens it up because it's,
Yeah.
And like you said, that part is very difficult to being able to open up because you think of like, oh, you just have to be this cool guy with like this, I don't know, just like impenetrable exterior, but that's not actually what's going to get you the connections that you desire.
Yeah. When I was the worst with women, it was when I was in high school, and I was that younger and I slowly got better with time because I was like putting on that facade and I thought like if I was just really cool and I was like a varsity baseball player, varsity basketball, I was in theater, president of a club, do it like great grades, and it like had all this stuff on paper, but I wasn't like vulnerable and I didn't really like connect with the women on an emotional level. So yeah.
What's something you're struggling with right now?
Finding a balance of finding time for deep work now that I have clarity on my vision. Deep work around the Tech Sales Accelerator course and the continually improving the curriculum and growing that business, my producing YouTube content, which is a full-time job, and now writing my keynote speech. I was working on it actually before this, that I'll take to tech companies on what I call bringing meaning to the meeting, a fresh perspective on the art of getting in the door and building more pipeline with some bigger like themes. And so I have a lot of shit to do. And I don't know if have you read Deep Work by Cal Newport? Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah. And it's such an important theme for me right now. And I realize I got to say no more to things while also, so that's the first thing, right? Is like being more focused in a distracted world when like later today, I'm probably going to socialize with my friends, but I also could make the choice to write my keynote and focus in. And the weekends are my precious time because I have a full-time job that pays the bills. And so there's that. Balancing it out with the fact that my superpower, one of them is I'm a super connector and I'm the type of guy I can go out in public and people gravitate towards me. And I have a huge network that has opened up opportunities for myself and others. And it comes from actually going out in the world and just being with strangers. I actually think like I've heard this from Scott Galloway in a podcast, go spend time with strangers. And so balancing these two things to realize my true impact, like I need to do deep work, but I also need to continue to put myself out there and find that balance. So I'm struggling with it because recently I went to the National Speakers Convention. I met a lot of great people, made great connections, learned a lot. I had flew out to LA for some customer meetings for my sales job, and I had a buddy crash with me while he's in between places. And I feel like I did a lot of connecting with people, but I'm like, shit, I need to do more deep work And so it's a ebb and flow. And so maybe tomorrow I'll lock in all day. So does that make sense? You know, that's kind of the balancing those two things.
Yeah. I have that same struggle with like doing new experiences, meeting new people versus like more concrete, like accomplishing things.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more blurry. It's not like, oh, you go out and meet people and then you get this result. It's like maybe you meet someone that's going to change your life, but maybe you don't.
Yeah. And hey, I could get inspiration for my speech and my content for YouTube and all that stuff from interactions with people. And also like there's just value in enjoying life and the journey and connecting with our fellow human beings. I mean, I know long term that's the most sustaining source of joy, and even diminished pain and suffering is our relationship. So, but saying no is important. Like Alex Hormozy's big on that, the season of no, and obviously he's achieved some great things. Mm-hmm. Now he's a great partner, you know, Layla, and they've built a good life together. But I'd say, yeah, that's a core challenge. And then like, my dating life's fine, you know, and but I think just sitting with loneliness and boredom, because I really don't want to settle. And I know that I do want to find an amazing woman that I can build a great life with. And I've even, you know, you've recently had some good dates. I've had some where you think it goes well, you're even like making out and then there's no follow-up. And, so, but just being able to stay patient on the dating front, because you could just go out with people that you're not that into and and you're spending money and mental and emotional resources too. And it's, but so yeah, just sitting with the natural loneliness and boredom that can come with being single and staying patient, you know?
Yeah. I think that is another superpower when it comes to dating, is being okay with being alone.
Yeah.
Because then you're able to walk away if something doesn't work for you. And it lets you show up better as well.
And the girl might come to you and actually maybe adjust her ways or, yeah, I think that's so powerful, man. And like there are times where I might follow up with a girl that's not the right fit, or clearly she's not that interested, and it like drives them away further. And it's not like the end of the world, you know, you're where you started, but it's like, that's not ideal. And so, and by the way, that's something like one of my things I have to manage in dating is a superpower for me in business is my persistence. And then when it comes to my dreams, but you can really drive women away by being a little too pushy, you know, or, you know, so.
Yeah. So what does your dream life look like, and what might be missing from it today?
I think I'm heading on the path towards my dream life, and I'm putting different pieces into place. But the biggest thing that is missing is my partner in crime, the love of my life. You know, that I can build a great life with, that I can eventually have kids with too. I want to have a family. So I mean, that's clear. It's a gaping hole. It's not there. And I do want to bring joy to my parents with some grandkids, and I'm not like I'm gonna have kids for them, but I want to have kids, and also it's gonna bring them so much joy, and so I look forward to that one day. And I'm building relationships with people that could be the next intro to the love of my life. I'm working on myself and building the life that I want. I'm sharing my passion with the world. And I know it will fall into place. And I'm certainly not singing my hands. I am shooting shots, 4 rejections in the past week or two. So I'm celebrating that. From a career perspective, full-time YouTube, of course, managing the tech sales accelerator business, helping people learn how to transition into tech sales and launch their career, get promoted to closing AE role. Want to grow that big. To a healthy business with some nice revenue. And I've consulted some CEOs at like 5 million revenue companies, services companies on the side on sales development, but I could see a consulting practice growing on that. But the big piece that it's time to take action on is professional speaker, and what's missing there right now is I got to write my keynote. So I made a commitment in the next 2 weeks, I'll have a draft. Right now I'm collecting stories and principles and things, and I want to build something that's it's inspiring. It has big themes in sales and in life, but very actionable. People can actually get better at, booking meetings, building pipeline, making more money. and growing in their careers. And so I need to write it, and then I need to go out and share the message. I need to speak to Rotary clubs, speak to free opportunities that I get. And eventually, and this year is going to happen, get the first paid gig, and I've talked to different professional speakers that are showing me the path, and I'm not caught up on a big fee, man. I just if getting paid for something, that's a transformation right there. Just like the first time I uploaded a YouTube video, and so I'm excited. There's work to be done, but as I mentioned earlier, I have that logo, always aim upward, and the joy and meaning that sustains us, it's found in the journey and connecting with great people like you. So this has been so much fun, man.
Yeah. Chris Bussing, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Bussing.
That was, this was a great conversation. John, if you're listening, thanks for connecting us.
Thanks, John. I feel like my mic, by the way, I should have adjusted it, but I don't know if I look funny, but hey.
Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. Chris Bussing on YouTube. That is where I'm putting a lot of effort and love into that platform. It's my number one platform. And I have my own videos and also podcasts committed to helping people create a life of freedom and impact through success in tech sales and the pursuit of self-development. I have a TikTok. It's Chris Bussing, and an Instagram, but it's really YouTube's the focus. LinkedIn as well. That's LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms. So it's just Chris Bussing. And then folks, if they want to consider a career in tech sales, maybe I've worked with teachers transitioning, bankers, someone selling in a different industry, or college graduates looking to get their foot in the door. I welcome the audience to check out techsalesaccelerator.com. And I put a lot into it. It's 12 hours of content, self-paced, but there's also support through coaching, office hours that I conduct, and also a certification process to reinforce that you know how to do the job, you know how to interview well. And then the students get access to my network too, and I am pretty connected to some big companies and startups as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, man. Had a great time. This was awesome.
Sweet. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.